Hi, everybody. Rima from Eureka Fabrics here in the sixth installment of our Successful Sewing series. If you've been struggling with making clothes or you're overwhelmed with the idea of diving in or diving in again, I think this series could really help. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 5, you can find them in our Successful Sewing series playlist. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss the next one. I'm coming to you today from my home sewing studio again. It's a whole lot quieter here than the shop, and it's way better for shooting videos. I hope that's okay. Okay, today's video is short, but it's really, really important. I'm going to make you best friends with the sewing tool you dread the most, the seam ripper. Most of us think of our seam ripper this way. But we really should think of our seam ripper this way. Here's why. I want you to think about this. How many things do you do exactly right the first time? I mean, perfect the first time you do them. Almost none, right? You have to try something new a couple of times at least to get the smallest thing right. With many endeavors, you need to put in that 10,000 hours before you get really good at it. So the idea that we're going to get our sewing project exactly right the first time is frankly pretty bonkers. Now think about this. If you screw up a cake, if it comes out all wrong, you just got to throw it out, right? But with sewing, you have this magic tool that grants you endless do-overs without tossing your mistake or your change of mind in the trash. Add to that the fact that you can entertain yourself while you're magically granting yourself a do-over. I routinely sew while watching TV or movies that I've seen before, so I don't have to pay close attention, but I don't get bored while I'm endlessly pinning or ripping or hand sewing. So now I'm going to give you some tips on how to make ripping easier, especially when you know in advance that ripping might be in your future in a particular place. Number one, baste. If you quietly think to yourself, should I baste this? The answer is yes. Basting is a great idea 100% of the time. Remember, you only spend about 15% of your sewing time at your machine. The time it would take to sew over your basting is nothing compared to the time it will take you to pick out tiny stitches, especially if you're sewing on delicate fabric that might be destroyed by ripping out too many times. Basting is always a good idea, always. Plus, if you don't back tack, you might not even have to use your ripper. Just pull the thread and you're ready to start again. If you don't want to take out your basting, that's okay too. Nobody says you have to. There is no basting police. If it doesn't show, it doesn't matter. For newbies who might not know what basting is, basting can be done by machine or by hand. You're just using a very long stitch to temporarily sew something together. Just set your machine for the longest stitch possible. There you go, you're basting. Okay, number two, use a contrasting colored thread for your basting. It's so much easier to see, especially if you're sewing dark colors. Do this if you think there's a good chance that you'll be taking it out at some point along the way. I mean, black thread on black? No. Number three, increase your stitch length in general. Yeah, I know your machine defaults to 2.5, but you can go to 3 most of the time unless you're sewing on something really light like chiffon, and you'll be fine. If you do end up having to rip out the actual seam, not just the basting, that 0.5 millimeter makes all the difference between struggling to find a stitch to cut and ripping out easily. Number four, don't rush. Actually, number four is a universal sewing rule. In fact, I'm adding it to my only other two sewing rules. Put down your presser foot, pre-wash your fabric. Everything else is up for grabs. If you're sewing in a hurry, you are 100% more likely to end up ripping when you really didn't need to. Don't cut corners. Don't let mistakes go early on because they will really screw you up later when the next piece doesn't go in right. My personal sewing rule is if I have made a mistake or if I've changed my mind, I have to rip it out right away. I can't leave it for the next sewing session. I have to leave my project ready to go forward, or it can just be too daunting to go back to it. This way, once you've ripped out the section you need to redo, you're ready to start fresh the next time. And this isn't only about making mistakes. Sometimes you just change your mind about how you want something to look, or you realize there's a better way to construct it, even though you already did your pattern test, right? Right? Just pick up your trusty seam ripper and let her rip. You'll be so glad you did, because that way your project will come out exactly the way you want it to. Ripping doesn't mean you failed. Ripping means you're being careful about your work, that you're paying attention, that you're being intentional, that you're actually invested in a good outcome. Ripping means that your project actually will come out the way you want it to, so you'll be able to wear it for years and be proud of your work. When I'm teaching new sewists, the first time they have to rip something out, I actually congratulate them and say, "Yay, now you're really sewing." Nobody sews without ripping. Oh, and one more thing. The right seam ripper matters. For me, this is the best one. It's by Clover and it costs about $6. Here's why I love it. The end is round, so it doesn't dig into your palm while you're ripping. The grip is squeezy, not slick, so it stays in your hand without trashing your fingers. The point is strong enough, but slim enough to slip under small stitches, and it stays pretty darn sharp for a long time. You might need to try a couple of different ones to find the one that's right for you, although I promise you it's not that teeny one that came with your sewing machine. No. But I think this is pretty much the Maserati of seam rippers. Try this one, Clover. Yay. And yet, seam rippers, no matter how fancy, will get dull over time. You have to replace yours every few years. If you feel like you're struggling to cut your threads, it's time for a new one. I hope this helps you refocus your thinking on ripping. It's good news, not bad news, when you're ripping. Let's replace this with this in our heads and go forward with our projects, knowing that we've done our best work. And don't miss our next video, where I will free you from the quest for perfection and introduce you to the only thing better than perfect, which is done. We'll see you again next time. Happy sewing!